Hi. First of all, thank you for all the views on my review of the Lynk & Co. 01. And yes, I'm well aware that that's the older model. So, ta-da! The facelift Lynk & Co. 01. So we begin as we normally do with the styling and the front end. It's not really all that different on the front. The same general shape of the headlights is there and the same daytime running lights as well. Fittingly, the last time I filmed the Lynk & Co. 01, it was in this exact location and the weather was very similar. But generally the front end is a tad bit different. There's a slightly different design of front fascia, but it's still generally the same thing. So we're just going to get the important stuff out of the way. The blue accents are gone. That was one of the defining features of the Lynk & Co. 01 previously, but now Lynk & Co. is chasing a slightly different aesthetic. So the blue accents on the exterior and interior and the wheels are gone completely. And in fact, it's not just the blue accents, the color blue is also completely gone from the lineup. You can no longer have this car in blue. You can only have it in black, white, or dark green, like a camo green sort of finish. And it's a rather lovely color, but this one is obviously white. Next is the side profile, which is generally the same as it was before, only most of the accents are now black instead of silver or chrome. We have this completely new design of alloy wheels. They're still 20 inches in diameter and they're still wrapped up in Kumo Extra tires, but it's a different design, again, without the blue accents. And although there's nothing wrong with this design, it is pretty cool, I prefer the old ones myself, but that's just me. The housing around the charge port, which is still on the front fender just there, is now completely blacked out. And it also has a contrasting black roof as well. And finally, the rear end, which is now pretty different, all things considered. There's a completely new taillight design, and now it's a much wider light bar than it was before. The Lynk & Co. badge is not part of the light bar, that doesn't light up, but the rest of it does. There's also a redesigned rear bumper, and the dual exhaust outlets that were there before are now gone, unfortunately. That looked really cool, but we can't have them anymore. So what do I think of the Lynk & Co. 01's design? I think it's a very nice looking vehicle. I've always thought this, oh, I just noticed the bird dookie on the rear spoiler, yay. I've always thought that the Lynk & Co. 01 looks really cool and really unique, and while I'm a bit sad about some of the interesting design touches that the old 01 had, this one is bang up to date. It fits in with the rest of Lynk & Co.'s lineup now, because the Lynk & Co. lineup, and in general, has given up on the blue accents and that old aesthetic that they had. This is great. It's a really distinctive looking thing. It's not very big, it's pretty compact, it's a very urban sort of crossover, but it's very distinctive and really rather nice looking. So, let's move on to practicality. I'm not trying to rush through this video, but I've reviewed this car before and I just want to cover and focus on the major changes that concern the facelift. But let's start with the practicality and the key fob, which is exactly the same as it was before, only it's now missing the activity key that fits in the jean pockets, which is unfortunate. Anyway, buttons along the side. So let's unlock the doors. You got new sequential turn signals and a little light signature. And let's open the tailgate. Can you hear that? That's a Range Rover. That sounds like it's about to break down quite spectacularly. I got distracted. On the more trim level, which is what this car is, you get an automatic tailgate. Anyway, opening the tailgate reveals a 422-liter cargo area. The dealership has not unpacked the optional rubber floor mat for the trunk, so I apologize for all the plastic bags and stuff you see here. You also see my equipment bags. There's a roll, I got stuck. Come on, a roll-away parcel shelf, LED illumination, nets, 12-volt storage in there. The rear seats obviously fold down, and when they do, you get this much room. And there's the same old Harman Kardon Infinity subwoofer in the trunk, which now takes up even less space, or at least it seems that way. And if you lift up all of this stuff, you get extra storage and some charging related stuff. You can't see that right now, but that's where you can put it. Once you're done, I don't think I need to say anything. By this point, you know what happens. What about space in the back seats? The old car was excellent at this sort of thing, so let's see how this one does. This seat is not currently in my driving position, but it is in a position that would be comfortable for a lot of people. I'm 5'11" and a half, 1.8 meters tall, blah, blah, blah. Plenty of legroom, as you can see, and plenty of headroom as well. Even though this car has the panoramic sunroof, you shouldn't have any problems with headroom. There's your own climate vents back here. There's some USB-C ports. There's some door storage. And there's also a center console with cup holders and my phone. What about the middle seat then? There's a bit of a hump in the floor, but let's see. Okay, this seat is a bit further back, but generally, yeah, this is fine. You could totally get away with 3 people in the back. Admittedly for shorter journeys, but you could. And finally, the front. But before we get in, obviously, there's a keyless entry system. There's a little ridge that you can barely see. You tap that, the door locks, and then you grab the handle. The auto folding of the mirrors is disabled right now. And interior, which is pretty radically different than it was before. So as I mentioned, all the blue accents are gone, and in their place we have this lovely yellow stitching and these actually far nicer seats. A whole bunch of yellow stitching everywhere, and well, the elephant in the room. So let's climb inside and check it all out. And now we're inside the Lynk & Co 01. There you go, it's on. It starts up in EV mode every time. Can we rev it? No. So the first thing that greets you in the facelifted Lynk & Co 01 is the steering wheel, which is pretty much the same as it was before. The only major difference is that the controls on the spokes are slightly different now. The airbag cover with the facets is exactly the same, the bottom spoke is the same, the leather feels a tad bit higher quality, maybe a tad bit firmer, but is generally the same. And in the middle, we have the horn, which sounds like this. One thing that hasn't changed between the pre-facelift and the facelift Lynk & Co 01 is the shifter. The transmission itself has changed a lot, but the shifter is pretty much the same, with one major difference. If you look at the gear pattern, you're probably thinking, does this car have 2 neutrals? No, it doesn't. What that actually is that Geely Group, or Lynk & Co, finally decided to more clearly label the shift pattern. So it lets you know that if you push down once, you go into neutral, and if you push down a second time, that's when you go into drive. And the same applies in the other direction as well. When you put the car in reverse, it plays this really loud sound. It's so loud that it can be clearly heard from the inside, even with the doors closed. And it also brings up your excellent 360-degree camera system and parking sensors. And then when you're done, you push the P for park, and you also have your parking brake just there. And I went through all of that without telling you what kind of gearbox this is. So the previous 01 had a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. This is a 3-speed DHT dedicated hybrid transmission. More on that later. So undoubtedly the biggest changes on the interior of the Lynk & Co 01 is the center control stack, because all of the physical controls and the smaller infotainment screen that were here are gone, and in their place is this big-ass 15-inch screen, which is absolutely identical to the one in the Lynk & Co 02, with only a handful of different options, because this is a different vehicle with a different powertrain. They include, among other things, if you'll just give me a second here, the drive modes are different. There's pure, hybrid, and power, and they're the same as they were before. And there's also a slightly different control for the sunroof, because the sunroof in this car has a sunblind and it actually opens. But the rest is pretty much identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the infotainment system entirely, and I'm going to refer you to my review of the Lynk & Co 02, because I explained it there in tremendous detail. So click on the card or on the link in the description, no pun intended, and you'll find out more about this infotainment system. But for now, let's move on to the other stuff. So here you can see, apart from the evil driver attention sensor that nobody likes, the new gauge cluster screen. The surround is exactly the same, but the screen is pulled straight from the Lynk & Co 02 and the Lynk & Co 08 as well. It's a little bit different than in the 02. You can see there's the power meter on the right side and the drive mode, but on the left, you have a tachometer, because you have an internal combustion engine. As well as the range you have left on this battery, you also have how much range you have on this tank of fuel. Let's close the door so it stops complaining. To adjust what's shown on the right side, you press the menu button and the back button, and you have 3 different options here. That's your trip data, that's your different layouts, and it can also show you the tire pressures as well. There's a dark mode I should mention. They're in light mode right now because it's the daytime. I prefer dark mode, but sure, let's make them easier to see. By the way, that little lightning bolt with the circle around it, You can adjust that with the shifter, because you see, this car no longer has a DCT, which means no more manual shifting. So what the shifter does instead when you move it left to right, it used to change gears, but now it adjusts your regen braking. Fascinating. You can adjust that through the infotainment system as well, but I prefer doing this to adjust the regen braking. It's fun. This little view button here allows you to toggle the map on or off. This is to do with cruise control and other related things, and you also have various different media controls on this side, but disappointingly, no more swipe gestures on this side. It's just buttons now. Turn signal stock is exactly the same as before. So is the wiper stock. So is the start-stop button. That's the same. And this button releases the fuel door if you press it once, and if you hold it down, it releases the charge port door in the front. There's your window controls, your mirror controls and locks, and if you push both L and R, it folds in the mirrors for you. And that's your child locks for the rear windows. And that's it really for the interior. You also have the rear view mirror. It's auto dimming, obviously. The overhead lighting is also pinched straight from the Lynk & Co. 02, and the hazard lights have also moved here as well. You can adjust the brightness of this using that little swipe thingy. You have the selfie camera here, which was also there before. The sunroof that you saw, and your sun visors, which do not include illumination. That's odd. And that's about it for the interior in terms of content, so let's move along to quality and storage. Now, not that there was anything wrong with the interior quality in the old Lynk & Co. 01, but this thing is even better. It feels like an even more quality product. For some reason, it just feels more polished and more complete. All of this is suede. There's yellow stitching all over the place. That's padded. You have that little cool pattern on the passenger side that you had before as well. This is padded. I think the only hard plastic that is easy to reach is this here, and that's not that easy to reach. The seats are lovely. They're super comfortable. And generally, the Lynk & Co. 01 feels like a proper premium product on the inside. In terms of storage, you have plenty of door pocket storage. You can easily fit a large bottle in there. You have your wireless phone charger on this side and some extra storage for a different device, let's say, on the other side. You got some cup holders here. They're a tad bit small, but they work. There's a center console. Oh, right, of course. There's a center console, and there's a glove box. How do you open the glove box? No. Put the lever back on the glove box, please. Nobody wants to open the glove box through the infotainment system. So overall, the Lynk & Co. 01, it's a little bit screen reliant, I won't lie to you. I wish there were a few more physical controls like there were before, but it's a great place to spend time, and it's a super, super high quality and very premium feeling interior. So, well done. Finally, the powertrain, which is now significantly different to the outgoing Lynk & Co. 01. First things first, the engine no longer has 3 cylinders, it now has 4 cylinders. It's a 1.5 liter, and there's also a slightly larger electric motor and a slightly larger 17.7 kilowatt hour battery pack, or 17.2, something like that. The total range on electric power is 75 kilometers, but there's also 276 horsepower. It's the same peak output as it was before, give or take 4 horsepower, I think. And that power goes to the front wheels through the new 3-speed dedicated hybrid transmission. Charge time, the onboard charger is, I think, about 6 kilowatts. Charge time is slightly less than 3 hours on a regular 11 kilowatt charger. And 0 to 100 kph is, according to Lynk & Co., 7.7 seconds. The top speed is 200 kilometers an hour, or 124 miles an hour. And apparently the fuel consumption is less than a liter per 100 kilometers of driving when driven properly. Is that true? Let's find out. And finally, the driving experience in the facelift Lynk & Co. 01. The best way I can really describe it, I'm going to keep it brief because, again, I've already reviewed this car, and I'm going to highlight the differences between the old Lynk & Co. 01 and the new one. So the experience in the facelift Lynk & Co. 01 is pretty different. For one thing, you have a 4-cylinder engine now, which means when you give it the beans, the sound is a little bit different. I am one for 3-cylinder engine sounds myself. I do have a soft spot for them, as I've told you before. But regardless, the driving experience is also different because the facelift 01 reacts differently, and because it uses a 3-speed DHT automatic transmission instead of a 7-speed DCT. As a result, you don't really get a whole lot of granular control. You can't shift gears yourself anymore, so you just have to rely on the DHT's calibration software to make everything work as it should. Fuel economy is still excellent. If you use the hybrid system properly, you should expect about a liter of gas per 100 kilometers of driving, or possibly less than that. Just out of curiosity, I also drove the 01 as like a regular self-charging hybrid where the engine would be running all the time, and I got something like 6.5 liters, which is a number I frequently mention in these videos. It always turns out to be the same, but anyway, 6.5 liters or this many mpgs. And the whole experience generally is a little bit different. The Facelift 01 now also gets adjustable power steering, which it I believe didn't exist before. It's pretty good. I just leave it in automatic mode and let it decide what it wants to do depending on the situation. But in terms of the handling, not much has changed with the Lynk & Co 01. Or in other words, it's still great. It hides its weight very well, and it's a pretty good fun to drive because of the instant responsiveness. It's great on the highway as well. There's barely any noise at all, frankly. Only a little bit of road noise from the Kumo Extra tires that this one was on. But nothing crazy. It's all comfy and it rides very well for 20-inch wheels. And in town, it's also an excellent thing to drive because it's small, it's maneuverable, you got plenty of safety systems and parking cameras and sensors and things. And it's overall, well, the Lynk & Co 01, frankly, the best way I can summarize it, is still an excellent car. It lost a teeny tiny little bit of the charm that it had before with the 3-cylinder engine and that, but is it still an excellent car while being a little more serious? Yes, it absolutely is. As a result, the score hasn't changed. The Lynk & Co 01 Facelift gets a score of 9 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you like this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on social media. There will be a link in the description, and by social media I mean Blue Sky. And follow along with the community tab for updates on upcoming videos, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.